I'd like to take this time to thank you kindly for purchasing Funny Jokes by Perry Ritthaler. Life is full of surprises, and without any further ado, we'll go straight to the show, and we hope you enjoy your time spent with us. Thank you again.
Well, yeah, you hear the one about the elementary school teacher? She's standing up in class one day and the sun's shining through the windows, and she's just curious to hear what the children would have to say. So she says, "Class, if you were going to go to heaven, what part of your body do you think would go to heaven first?" And the kids look, and one looks at the other, and the teacher looks at little Sally, and she says, "Sally, what part of your body do you think goes to heaven first?" Little Sally looks at her, and she's got pretty blonde hair and just a cute little thing, and she says, "You know what, teacher?" And she holds her hands out in front of her like she's going to pray, and she says, "Every night, teacher, I say a prayer before I go to bed. So I think if God was to ever take me, I think my hands would go to heaven first." And the teacher looks at her and she smiles, and little Sally smiles, and then the teacher looks at little Johnny, and she says to Johnny, she says, "Well, Johnny, what part of your body do you think would go to heaven first?" And Johnny says, "You know what, teacher? I know it's the feet." Teacher looks kind of funny, and she says, "Well, why do you think it's the feet, Johnny?" And Johnny looks at her for a minute, and he says, "You know what, teacher?" He says, "The other night, around 9 o'clock at night, I was supposed to be in bed, but I was getting up to go to the bathroom. And I went by my mom and dad's room, and the door was kind of half open. And I looked inside, and my mom's feet were pointing straight at the air. And she kept yelling, 'Oh God, I'm coming!' So I know it's the feet, because if my dad didn't have her pinned to the bed, God would have taken her right then and there." Well, yeah, I don't know about them hospitals. I'll tell you, I never had many good experiences in them. Went in for a prostate exam one time, and I'm sitting there waiting in the room and waiting in the room, and all of a sudden this great big East Indian fella comes in and got a beautiful suit and tie on. And I said to him, "Well, Doc, you're going to give me my prostate exam?" And he looks at me and says, "Well, sure." So he says, "You all got to bend over. Take your pants down." So I lean on the bed and drop my trousers to the floor and pull down my underwear. And he says, "Well, just step out of your pants and open up pretty good there." And I turn around and see him put a rubber glove on, and seemed he knew where the Vaseline was. And next thing I know, he's got this great big finger up my ass, and he's rolling around and rolling it around, and he's squeezing my balls, and he pulls out of my ass, and he says, "Well, I got to just make sure this is right." And he didn't grab my Peter, and then he stuck his hand up my ass again, and he's moving his fingers around and moving them around, and then he pulls out and he says, "Well, I think everything's fine." So I said, "Okay, fine." He says, "Well, go ahead and pull your pants up." So I pull my pants up, and he leaves the room, and then I'm about to leave the room, and the head nurse walks in. She says, "I'm the head nurse. Your doctor will be around shortly. And by the way, who was that East Indian man that was in your room?" Well, I tell you, we sure do live in a dangerous world today. The other night, me and my wife, we were bedded down, and all of a sudden, crash, bang, there's a busted window downstairs, and she looks at me and she says, "Honey, you better go downstairs and see what it is." And I says, well, okay, dear. And then suddenly, bang, our bedroom door gets kicked in and this punk comes in. He's waving a gun all around. He's got these wild eyes. And he says to my wife, he says, get over here in this chair and sit down by the bed. And then he goes up behind her and he starts kissing her neck and whispering in her ear. And then he goes into the bathroom. And I said to my wife, honey, I says, this is one of them crackhead kids with a gun. I said, it doesn't matter what he wants. We've gotta, you gotta please him, sweetheart. I mean, otherwise he just might up and kill us. She says to me, baby, he said he's gay. He just wanted to know where the Vaseline was. Yeah, I tell you, my wife and I, we love to go on holidays. This year we decided to fly to Hawaii out of Vancouver. So we make our way down to Vancouver. It's a beautiful sunny day, and we get onto the plane, and it was a great big jet, and there's 4 seats in the middle, and my wife and I are sitting beside each other, and there comes a marshal and a dog onto the plane. Got a little police insignia on the dog, and he sits down right beside us. And the dog has its own chair, and he has a chair, and the 4 of us are sitting in the middle, and my wife says, oh, what a beautiful dog, and can I pet your dog, sir? And the marshal says, no, ma'am, this dog's on duty. He's here to protect us when we fly across the sky. So, what about 15-20 minutes later, the plane's in the air, and my wife and I are watching a movie, and she notices the dog, and she says to the marshal, she says, what's the little dog, that dog's name? And the marshal says the dog's name's Pedro. The lady says, oh, isn't that a wonderful name? And about 20 minutes later, the marshal, he points down the aisle and he says, go to Pedro. And Pedro gets up and he walks up and down the aisle and sniffs around and sniffs around, and then he comes back and he looks at the marshal and he wags his tail and he lifts his left paw. And my wife says to the marshal, isn't that cute? What does that mean? The marshal says, well, that means Pedro's done his patrol and he's found no drugs on the plane. She says, oh, isn't that a smart dog? About a half hour later, the marshal says to Pedro, points down the hall, and he says, go. My wife's watching him, and Pedro comes up and down the hall, and he's sniffing all around, and then he comes back, and he looks at the marshal, and he jumps up in the chair, and geez, he shits in the chair. And it smells, and my wife looks at me, and I look at her, and she looks at the marshal, and she says, what's that mean? He says, well, ma'am, that's time to put your head between your legs, kiss your ass goodbye, because Pedro's found a bomb on the plane. Yeah, spent some time in the military. Remember years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, we were over in Saudi Arabia, me and my buddy, and all of a sudden one day the captain says, we got a guy coming in from Halliburton, and we want you to run some security, and you got to protect this guy when he walks around the community and drives around. And so we get all together and driving around with this fella, and after, I don't know, 3-4 days, well, I tell you, I looked over at him, and he looked at me, and this guy's lips are all chapped, and they're starting to crack, and looks like dried blood on him. And we stop and we're going in for a cup of tea, and we're in a little village, kind of an isolated area, and there's camels and animals and people's like a bazaar. So we stop there and we're having a cup of tea, and I looked at him and he looked at me and he says, "Boy, I tell you, these lips are just getting the better of me." And I said to him, "Well, the government gives us OxyContin. This is, they give you a couple of them pills, they take the pain right away." So I give the fellow one pill, and then he's sitting there and he's starting to look pretty good. He's just starting to smile and feel better. And then I noticed an Arab fella come along, and boy, I tell you, see, you look at these Arabs and they got them big, beautiful lips, and they're not chapped or bleeding. And I says to him, "Can you help my buddy?" He says, "Oh." I says, "Yeah, he's got these chapped, bleeding lips. I'll tell you, you must have some kind of a magic formula you use on these lips of yours. They're so beautiful." And the Arab fellow looks at me for a minute and he says, "Yeah, I could probably help you." I'm watching him, and geez, he walks over to the camel tied up on the road, and he sticks his fingers up his ass and comes back over to the Halliburton fella, and he rubs his fingers all over his lips, and the Halliburton guy kind of comes to. He was a little bit doped up, and he says, "What are you doing?" He says, "This tastes like camel shit." He says, "Well, it will stop you from licking them." Well, I was out having a beer after work the other night in this little pub called Flanagan's down the corner around the corner from my house, and I ran into my buddy, and I haven't seen him for about a few months, and I says to him, "How you doing?" And he says, "I'm doing fine." I said, "Well, you used to stutter." He says, "Well, I had that fixed," and he's got kind of a sad look on his face. And I says, "Well, how'd you get that fixed?" And he says, "Well," he says, "I went to see my doctor, and I walked in. I said, "Doctor, can you help me?" And the doctor, and the physician looked at him and he says, "Well, can I see your Peter?" "Okay, doctor." And I pulled out my Peter. The doctor looked at it and he held it in his hand. And he says, "Well, son, your Peter's too big." He said, "It's pulling on your vocal cords, and that's why you're gonna stutter." And he says, "Well, I can fix that. I can give you a transplant, and we can probably fix this stutter issue you have. And are you sure you want to do that?" And he says, "Well, sir, my wife, she don't like me stuttering. Yeah, I want you to fix this for me." So the doctor says, "Okay, well, I have an opening in a couple of days. Y'all come back in and we'll do the surgery and see if we can fix this." So a couple days go by and I go to see the doctor, and the doctor says, "We're going to do the surgery today." So he puts me out, and I wake up in the hospital bed and this tiny little penis between my legs, and I'm not stuttering anymore. And I go home and I see my wife, and she's just not satisfied. I can't please her. So I go back to the doctor the next day and I says, "Doctor, I says, can you reverse this? And the doctor says, no, I can't reverse the operation. Yeah, I've lived in my neighborhood quite a few years. Flanagan's Pub's a real favorite of mine, and I got a lot of friends down there. And the other day I was having a beer with another buddy of mine, and boy, he says, he was really looking kind of, I don't know, just didn't have a good look about him. And I says, well, what's going on in your life? And he says, well, me and the wife, we kind of haven't got along for a long time, and she's kind of into this bondage thing, and when we make love at night, she likes to tie me up, and she's got a set of handcuffs, and my God, she does the most horrible things to me when she has sex with me, and she's really nasty. And I said about 2 weeks ago, she up and she left me. And he says, oh really? She says, yeah, she ran away with a police officer. He says, oh my goodness. I says, that's really sad. He says, well, not really. I mean, my life is full of challenges, and I usually adapt. And mind you, the other day, I was driving down the road, and I was kind of in a hurry to get to the bank. It was payday, and I need to cash my check and pay some bills. And I'm out on Highway 41, and going a little fast, and all of a sudden I see this red blue lights flashing behind me. I'm thinking, oh my God. So I drive a little faster, and he's right on my tail, and he's quite aggressive. So I drive a little faster and a little faster, and pretty soon he's yelling at me on some microphone. He's saying, hey, pull over, and all kinds of things, and he's got a gun in his hand. He pulls up beside me, and so I pull over, and he says, what do you think you're doing? I says to him, well, geez, officer, my wife ran away with a police officer 2 weeks ago, and I thought you were bringing her back. Well, it's Thanksgiving dinner, and me and my wife, well, we invited our neighbors over, and Bill and Mary, and they come to the door. It's about 5 o'clock, and boy, Bill's walking awful funny, and he's kind of holding his Peter, and he comes in and he sits down, and I said to him, do you want a beer? And he says, yeah, please, I sure could use one of those. And I says, well, why are you holding your Peter? And he says, oh man, I'll tell you, I just had such the experience. He says, about 2 weeks ago, I go in to see my doctor, and I says to my doctor, I'm over 50 now, and I'd really like to get castrated. And the doctor looked at me and he says, oh my goodness, I says, boy, that's an awful painful operation. Are you sure you want to do this? And I said to him, doctor, I'm positive I want to do this. I've talked it over with my wife, and we think it's the best thing for us. The doctor says, well, y'all go home, you take a few days and you think about this. And if you really want to do this, y'all come back in a few days, and we'll see what we can do for you. A few days passed, and I went back to see the doctor, and I says, yep, doc, I want to get castrated. The doctor says, well, I just happen to have an opening tomorrow. I had a cancellation. He says, well, you show up at the hospital about 8 o'clock in the morning, and we'll get you checked in, and we'll do the surgery around 10. So I go in, and boy, I get this male nurse, and he's He's got to give me some kind of sponge bath with some orange stuff, and then he's shaving me, and oh my gosh, what an embarrassing situation having a man touch my Peter and balls. So they give me some kind of sedative, and I'm off to sleepy land, and I wake up in the hospital room a few hours later, and oh my God, this is so sore. I'm just moaning and moaning and moaning. And then the man beside me, he says, "Oh, I know it hurts." He says, "Oh," I says, "Oh, really? What are you in here for?" And he says, "Oh, I had a vasectomy." I says, "Oh, shit, that's it." Well, yeah, I got to tell you a bit of a family story. See, my mom was a bit of a whore, and I'm English, and my brother's Scottish, and my other brother's Irish. And one night we all decided to go out to a pub. We're down in London, England, downtown, but we haven't got more than a couple of pounds between us all. So my brother says to me, "What are we gonna do? We want to go out and party on the town." My other brother looks at him and he says, "You know what? I've got an idea, John. This is what I'm gonna do. Hang on, give me the 2 pounds." So about half hour later, John returns. John's got this great big sausage in his hands. He got it at the butcher shop. Then he says, "This is what we're going to do. Now you two come with me to the bar, and you just follow my lead." And he says, "We're going to go in, we're going to get ourselves 2 or 3 rounds, and you just kind of follow me." And so the boys are drinking in the pub and they're having a good time and they're starting to feel pretty good. And the waitress, she's looking to maybe collect the bill. And Jesus, John pulls out the big sausage and he puts it between his legs and he tells Bill, "Bill, suck on my sausage." Well, oh my God. About 10 minutes later, the bouncer just grabbed us all and threw us out of the pub and called us queers. So we were all kind of laughing away, and we go to the next pub, and oh, we have another 2 or 3 beer, and boy, I tell you, we do it again. And sure enough, the bouncer throws us out of the bar. Well, holy smokes, it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. We're pissed to the gills, and my brother Bill, he says to me, "I'm kind of hungry. What do you say you feed me that sausage?" And I says, "Oh, that sausage, shit, Bill, we threw that away after the second bar."
Well, thank you for spending your valuable time with me, and I hope you have enjoyed the show. We also have other ebooks available online at www.digitalmindcoach.net. We'll give you a little snippet at the end of this show now on a book we just released called The Interrogator. I hope you enjoy the audio file for that book, and if you like, we'll see you at the website, and for now, have yourself a nice day. Thank you again. Bye for now.
What do you want from me? I work for you. Please take this hood off my head. Well, that's right, laddie. You do work for us. And what we want to know is what you're doing in the internet. So if you answer me honestly, I'll remove the hood. NATO wanted a mock warfare live fire tested warfare program that will control the money on the planet, shape wars and invasion and occupation, and shift global geopolitical power. Do you have a problem with what I designed? Oh, thank you for removing the hood off my head. Well, actually, Sonny, the program is more advanced and more powerful than we thought possible. So why are you in my home? You run the program, boy, that shapes evolution. And you've written the program in a way you control the program, and not us. And now you're sitting in my world I control. What do you want from me? I cannot increase your IQ, and I'm not responsible if you fail to understand what I have in play or use the programs intelligently in the best interests of your country. Look, you slippery little bastard. We have the sharpest minds on the planet watching your operations on video camera every day. So now we want you to sit here and explain all the details you have in play, including the ones we don't see. You play your cards the way you want at the global poker table, and you have pissed away the financial stability of the US empire, broken huge parts of the Middle East, ended up with refugee invasion in Europe and other parts of the world, and you do not control your own war on terror or your global currency or oil revenues. Just a moment, Sonny. I need to put some of my encouragement tools on the table. For example, this gun will blow a hole in your kneecap if you keep pissing me off and lying to me. And this razor blade can cut you in ways you've never thought possible. And this is my knitting needle. Well, if I stick it into your body in specific areas, you'll scream for days until you pass out. What do you want from me? What do you want me to tell you that I have not told you? You do not pay me, and you just use your computer text to steal my research, and then you take this powerful data and run around the world using the data the wrong way. By the time I finish with you, boy, well, you'll be my little canary in a cage, singing your heart out, and not this arrogant prick you are today. You're in my wheelhouse now, Sonny. Fine. I will tell you what you need to know. And tell me, what do I do when a Neanderthal as primitive as you does not get what I tell you? Oh, you got a mouth on you, boy. I'm going to turn you around in this chair where we have you tied up, and you face the computer embedded in the wall in your kitchen. And you can talk into the camera at the top of the computer, and you can tell my boss what you've done. Now speak up and face the camera so they can watch your eyes and lips move when you talk to them.